Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 159 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Knisley.
Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a very special guest joining on today's episode. Mr. Adam McDorman is back on the podcast. How's it going, Adam?
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks so much.
Oh, yeah, of course. We have you on today's show, Adam, to talk all about the Chrono series. Chrono series? We're probably going to flip back and forth during this episode. But Chrono Cross just came out for the Nintendo Switch and pretty much every platform that God's good grace has ever seen on this planet. And we're going to be talking about our thoughts on the port of this game, or of the remaster, I guess you could call it. Plus our thoughts on the Chrono series as a whole. Maybe why we haven't seen Chrono Trigger on the Switch. If there will ever be another game in this series. We're going to be talking all about that. And we got a lot of news in the gaming industry this week to go over as well. Switch got a firmware update that we forgot to talk about last week. Kingdom Hearts 4 has been announced, further proving the NVIDIA leak to be bearing fruit. And Epic seems to be a major player in the metaverse. We're going to talk all about this and lots more. Before we get into the news, how's everybody doing? We have a good week this past week.
All good here. I saw Sonic 2. And for
nice.
I'm sure we'll talk more Sonic 2. David, you and I. But also, if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, thank you. Second of all, David and I have the same hat on right now.
Yeah, that's true.
There will be many references to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a faux pas or if this is a case of twinsies. Nobody has an opinion on
that. You don't. Swell listener, you decide.
Yeah. I too saw the Sonic movie number 2 this weekend and went in my costume to go see it at a 9:40 p.m. show. So felt a little
that's real important.
Wasn't even like the opening night or anything either. It was just like with some friends who were varying levels of intoxicated, and I was in a Sonic suit. But I did take a really cute photo with some kids that were there and were really excited. This little girl had like a Sonic plushie, and her parents were like, "Can she take a picture with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." So I had to put out my cigarette, and then she came over. No, I'm just kidding.
Set down your beer.
Yeah, exactly. No, but that was nice. It was just cool seeing like young kids like still into Sonic these days. You know, they're like massive Sonic fans. So it was nice to go see that children's movie with a bunch of drunk idiots.
Yeah, they really leaned in hard for the children's movie aspect of Sonic 2. I thought it was still fun. I, on the other hand, did not go to a 9 p.m. showing. I went to a 3 p.m. showing yesterday. It was Sunday, which was a kids-friendly version. But that was the only time that I was able to go. But it was pretty quiet at the draft house, even though it was kids-friendly, and which is a very relaxed.
Well, they'll kick out those kids if they make a sound.
Yeah. The parents can stay, but the kids gotta
leave. Oh Lord.
Yeah, I'll go quickly. I've mostly been just focused on doing this game jam this past week. That's really all I've done. And by the time this episode comes out, it should be available to play. So please do check that out. I would appreciate it. Made a game
that's
called,
the platformer, right?
Yeah, I made this platformer game. Started on the 1st of the month. So in roughly 10, 11 days, I've made this platformer speedrunning game called Monochrome Heights. And you can find it on my itch page, pdyx.itch.io.
Hell yeah. While us plebes have backlogs of games to beat, Patrick has backlogs of games to create. Adam, how was your week, man?
Good. Busy. I'm settling into the 4th quarter of teaching. And like everybody is so ready to be done. All of my high school students are really trying to push those boundaries. So they want to hurt me real bad. But I'm going to survive.
Yeah.
Man, already it's not even May. Huh?
It's going to be.
It's going to be.
Hey, it's May somewhere, man.
Someday it will be May.
Wait a second.
Very good.
Yeah, awesome. Well, last week we did an episode about gaming subscription services, and that generated lots of great discussion, as always, on the Discord, some of which descended into talking about selling old consoles, which was a lot of fun. We got some great comments on the Discord from lots of people, actually, so it's hard to pick anyone, but we got a really nice, thoughtful one from Other Dylan. And A. Musil mentioned kind of how PlayStation Plus is really just about getting online for them, and I think that might be true for a lot of folks, but maybe not anymore in light of the new changes. And then over on YouTube, Record2 said that honestly they're gonna miss E3 because that was part of the news discussion. And you know how people who are fans of other things have events like the Grammys or the Oscars or things like that. And
yeah,
I guess we have the Game Awards.
But it's not like it's not like
It's
E3
not
was
E3 was
E3 was like Christmas more than like the Oscars. You know what I mean? It was like a big, count down the days to E3 when I was a kid.
Yeah,
me too.
And then read about it a month later in a magazine.
Oh, and over on the Discord, Matthew shared some fun old E3 pictures while we're talking about that.
That's true. Yeah.
And then thank you very much to ATX Nets Fan 1 over on Twitter, because Shinobi on Twitter was asking about Nintendo focused YouTubers and creators, and ATX Nets Fan tagged us and responded and said, best podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate that kind of thing. We'd love it if more folks would do that and share
Spread
our
the
podcast.
good word.
Yeah. And tell folks when they ask about things like that, especially, we appreciate it. But also remember to shoot us a note, leave a comment somewhere, and also like and subscribe on YouTube. We appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some news and rumors to go over for this week in this segment. First up, I think we may have missed this one last week, but I don't even know if these qualify as being important, but we got a new Switch system version, an update to 14.1.0 happened closer to the beginning of the month. And I guess the thing of note here is that platinum points, which I guess this was integrated somewhat last time, I think, but now you can change the notification. There's notifications about platinum points now, and you can set whether you want them or not, I think is the case, right? Is that
yeah, I think basically the idea here is you get a ping on your Switch if you have platinum points that are about to expire that haven't been used. So like before, you can use platinum points for a lot of different stuff. You can use them for these new icons. You can use them for physical rewards on My Nintendo and all that kind of stuff. So it's good to know when they expire, because they do expire after a while. And so now your Switch will tell you when that's about to happen. So it's kind of a cool update. In a way, it's at least a bit of quality of life stuff that we don't see all the time. So,
and there are more of those icons as well. I think like Splatoon ones, maybe.
Yeah, Splatoon got some. I think Kirby got some as well. And April Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
One of the big news items this week is that Square, who also makes the Chrono series, has announced Kingdom Hearts 4. And there was a interesting trailer that was released related to that. Anybody want to explain what happened in this trailer? Is Sora a real person now?
I can't.
Why was he on that photorealistic couch?
Why is it so realistic?
Is this a different which timeline Sora is this?
I have no fucking idea. You're the expert.
You tell us, Matthew. Can you break this down for us? What happens in this trailer and what does it mean?
I only know one fact. I watched this very briefly on like the Saturday morning it came out during the 20th anniversary. Kingdom Hearts fans are eating good. Got a lot of new announcements in this celebration of the 20th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts. The one thing I know for sure, I don't know anything about the story, but I do know that Sora has new shoes.
Yeah, he's not wearing clown shoes anymore.
Yeah, exactly. No more clown shoes. He's got some cool kicks. And what that means, I don't know. But I think maybe that something that y'all were talking about on Discord is people think they reveal some of the worlds and there's like a grassy world. And folks are suggesting that maybe we're going to see Star Wars in the Kingdom Hearts world. So there's always been discussions whether Kingdom Hearts will explore more like Disney cartoon properties. Maybe those will decrease and like Star Wars and Marvel worlds will increase.
They have Pixar in there.
Oh yeah.
Which is not Disney proper, but Adam, are you a Kingdom Hearts player?
Not really. I've tried multiple times and bounced off of it every single time. I played the first game.
This trailer got you hyped? You think you might dip your toes back into a realistic Tokyo?
Now that Sephiroth, Goofy, and like, I don't know, Boba Fett can hang out, are you in?
I mean, that does sound pretty nice.
Yeah.
I might.
I'm hoping that at one point Sora and the gang get like sucked into like a Disney Plus universe where they're just like jumping around the app and like loading streaming stuff. I think that could be kind of fun. And like the big swoop that turns into the Plus is the boss. That's what I'm thinking.
And then we'll get a really bad streaming version of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to stream this game in 2027 on my Switch.
Yeah, you got to stream it through the Disney Plus app.
Yeah. Still no Netflix. Yeah. And additionally, also, I think something that's worth talking about is Kingdom Hearts 4 was yet another part of the NVIDIA leak that has now been proven true. The NVIDIA leak really is the gift that keeps on giving. Both Chrono Cross remastered and Kingdom Hearts 4 were on that as well. So taking a look at some of the other Square properties that were on there, we had Final Fantasy IX Remake that was a part of that NVIDIA leak. So I think we have that to look forward to potentially. And then also I think a Final Fantasy Tactics remaster was on that list as well. So there's lots of stuff to peruse through that NVIDIA leak. A lot of it has been coming true over the past few months. So definitely keep an eye on that if you want to know some upcoming games that haven't been announced yet.
And then moving on, we already talked about this in the opening, but Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the film, was released. I have not yet had a chance to check it out myself, but obviously David and Matthew gave a little bit of their thoughts already.
I love the guy with the kid is the one who hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Two grown adults without children.
Yeah.
We got plenty
he
of time.
doesn't. He's off of school because of Easter or whatever on Monday, and I'm going to take him then because that's something we can do.
Very good.
That's the plan, at least. And then, it's done relatively well. It's made like 70 million, over 70 million. What's the number?
Yeah, that's just the domestic box office haul. Yeah. I think it had a budget of like 75 million as well. So it's going to more than make its money back. And I think it's the highest grossing opening weekend for a video game movie to date. Wow. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's looking like worldwide is somewhere around 141.
Oh,
at least as of yesterday. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say if you include marketing and everything, that's probably just about broken even just after its first weekend. So that's a really good haul for this movie. It did better than the first movie did at the box office. I think it's also just a better movie than the first movie as well. And so, yeah, I'm really happy for it. It's nice to see a video game movie just done really well.
It's fun. It's a fun movie. I think Jim Carrey is like prime Jim Carrey. He's having a great time.
Dude, yeah. Idris Elba was inspired casting.
Oh, yeah.
He did a great job.
Knuckles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait to share my thoughts in a week or so. And then one of the remaining outstanding Nintendo 64 games that has been announced that is coming to the Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack is Mario Golf, and they have announced that is coming on April 15th. So shortly after this podcast comes out, if you're a fan of the Nintendo 64 Mario Golf game, you'll have a chance to play it on your Switch. And I think that only leaves 2 or so more games that they have said are coming.
Yeah, it's just Pokemon Snap and Kirby, right?
Yep, Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, and Pokemon Snap. And then we'll see what happens after that, but we've got a couple more months before they probably do anything at the non-existent E3, maybe. And then if you're a fan of boss rush modes and Metroidvanias, the Metroid Dread update is live now, which puts out the boss rush bonus mode as an update to the game, which I haven't jumped in on. I don't know if anybody here is even interested in this. I think when it was announced back at the Direct, we were all kind of like, not the update we're looking for, but happy for people who are into that, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know that I've opened Metroid Dread since I beat it in October of last year.
Yeah,
same.
It's totally worth it. Great game. But I, saving that one for a replay after farther away from it, right?
Yeah, I just got Metroid out. I like played all the 2D Metroid games like right up until Dread, and then I played Dread. And so I was like, cool, I can take a break from Metroid for a while.
You don't want a boss rush mode?
Yeah, no, I boss rush moded the games. I game rushed.
Fair enough.
I'm excited to see what folks in the speedrunning community do with the boss rush mode.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
Could be cool.
That'd be kind of cool. Did you played Dread, Adam?
No, I haven't.
Oh, really?
Is that are you into games like that? I know you're a big RPG person, but I don't know about more action.
Yeah. Oh, I love a good Metroidvania. I was playing Fusion in the months leading up to that, and it was like, this is good for now. I'll wait. And there's just so many games.
There are so many games.
So many.
Yeah.
So many just in the NVIDIA League.
And then a Twitter user has who's located in Northern Ireland, whose name is Rachel or Raquel or something like that, has allegedly unlocked Advance Wars, the game that was delayed. So it's supposed to come out on April 8th, but they delayed it in light of world events, and they're claiming that it got preloaded on their Switch Lite, and they're playing it, and they've put up some screenshots and videos and stuff. I don't know if there's different rules, and we were talking about this because it's part of the UK and how the laws work with preloading and all that kind of stuff.
We had talked about the EU had a lot of lawsuits just about digital pre-orders, right? And when something can be returned or when your money is taken. And so because of that, Nintendo instituted in the EU and beyond, they instituted it here in the US as well, that you can't preload a game until a week beforehand. So that's why it's a little confusing as to how this person actually had the game preloaded already, because of course a week before April 8th, the game had already been delayed and wasn't able to be preloaded. So I'm a little confused. We were speculating. She's apparently from Northern Ireland, which is a part of the UK, which would mean that they were part of Brexit. So maybe EU laws don't apply to them. So maybe it's a very specific use case. But then you would think you'd hear more about people in the UK, right? Right. But either way, I mean, I don't doubt that happened. I mean, she made another tweet later saying that Nintendo did contact her and said that they are rescinding the code to the game and all that kind of stuff, and so it caught the eye of Nintendo, and they did take action. But yeah, I mean, it just means we have finished copies of Advance Wars just sitting there waiting to go.
Yeah. And then this one, Matthew, maybe you can expound upon this, but I saw that, I think you were talking about this last week, right? On the show at the end during the What We Were Playing segment, you were talking about the Halo Infinite sort of, I don't know what the word is, but just sort of the fandom versus 343 and when is this new mode coming out and that kind of stuff. But they have announced, right? They've announced when this new season, and I think there's some new modes coming out, and it's in May. Is that correct?
Yeah, May 3rd. That's right. Yeah, it's coming out May 3rd.
Almost here. It's almost May.
I know.
Adam previously indicated.
It's always May somewhere, right?
Yeah. It's Halo Infinite 2 somewhere.
Yeah. This is exciting. It's going to be one new kind of map, normal arena map, and one big team battle map, and a bunch of new skins and art and cool cosmetics, as well as some new game modes. So I think that's fun. It's going to reinvigorate some of the community who's been really thirsty for new content and anything new from 343. So this is good momentum.
Yeah.
It's missing a few important things like Co-op is still non-existent.
Forge,
which probably won't be here until season 3, which will be in the fall. Something. This is something. So
something.
There's some other changes. They nerfed some of the weapons.
I definitely think that this game was not ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Well, should be fun.
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. I thought, go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah. I mean, to David's point, it's 343 is just not prepared to fix their game and to develop new content at the same time. These are two totally different lines of business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's clear that it was a late decision to make it a live service game, right?
I don't know.
That seems pretty clear to me. Yeah.
I think like it's always, from its cosmetic store perspective, that was always designed as you pay big money for cosmetics. So that's always been part of the design. Whether it was supposed to be like a $60 game or free to play, to me, from putting so many hours into it, it does feel like a free to play game.
Yeah.
But people want Halo to be a full experience. And so having the reality and expectations coming into it kind of clashing.
Real quick before we move on, Matt, do you have any opinions on Master Chief's buns from the Halo TV show?
His big old butt from episode 3 of season 1.
Yeah,
it's a nice butt. That's the first thing we see his butt.
You get to see fully nude Master Chief on TV.
You get to see his face, and you get to see his butt. You get to see some like a creepy AI of Dr. Halsey too. It's an okay TV show.
Yeah,
I'm compelled by
it. Yeah,
I'm compelled by what it could be, but it's not as good as some of the other television programs currently out.
Yeah, I haven't given it a chance yet.
It has been good background TV for me.
Has he been watching, Patrick?
Yeah, just like very like casually,
just while coding.
Yeah, while doing other. Actually, that's true. Yes, that is true.
Would you call it like one of the better video game related television shows? How's it rank?
Okay, here's the question: is it better than Castlevania?
No,
of course not. Okay. Well, you're comparing like a French toast for breakfast versus like a single apple. Like Pop-Tart. Yeah. It's like, well, they're both good in various circumstances, but one is superior to the other. I don't know if there's been many other like long form epic television based on a video game.
It feels different than like any like that comparison. I mean, what other TV video game shows are there right now? Like, is The Witcher count?
Yeah, The Witcher would count.
If The Witcher counts, then it's not nearly as good as that. You know,
like, right? Yeah, that's a good.
Much less Castlevania.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think we'll see when The Last of Us comes out. Right, that's going to be a really big one. Right, and that's HBO. Right, so it's like the prestige drama channel. Right, so we'll see kind of where it stands at that point. But yeah, I don't think
Halo feels like a I don't know, like a CW kind of. That's not fair. Maybe it's not that low.
It looks like it from the trailer.
It just kind of feels like a low tier. It really, I don't know how to describe it. Like, does that make sense? Like, that's why I'm like, it's good background fodder.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the story so far is just about like characters and like the personalities of the Spartans, but it's missing the whole military complex and like the great big human covenant war. Like I'm hoping that it builds up to like some epic battle, like on the scale of like Game of Thrones. This is my hope: a big war battle, big Master Chief. Want to see some struggle, but it's mostly been presenting Halo to like a new audience. I think Sega's doing something very similar. What they're doing with Sonic, they're building the audience that currently loves Sonic. They want new types of people to also love Sonic, and I think this is what Halo is doing too. They're making it kind of familiar enough and casual enough to watch Halo without being familiar or reading their 25 books.
Right. Where I think Sonic did a better job, and I haven't watched the Halo show, so I shouldn't really be saying this, but it's like, but it's like Sonic did a great job of towing that line between making a thing for kids to be new Sonic fans and then being completely faithful and honoring the existing fan base. You know what I mean? Like Sonic fans love Sonic 2, the movie, you know, like I haven't heard a single Sonic fan that's like upset with it. And so, yeah. So, but on the flip side, I have heard a lot of diehard Halo fans who have read all the Halo books being like, they've completely shit on the whole like legacy of the franchise and all that shit. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I want to see some like crazy shit. I mean, the Spartan program exists because they kidnap children, and they experiment on them. Like, let's see the horrifying effects of war. Let's see the military industrial complex.
Let's see some child soldiers, man. Where are my child soldiers at?
Yeah.
You got to watch Sonic 2 for that.
That's Tails.
Yeah. All right. Well,
we'll move
that
on.
concludes Super Halo Heads for the day.
Thanks for letting me go down that path.
We got a few more news items. We'll move maybe kind of quick. This one's just kind of fun. Not really, maybe, but like interesting, maybe is the better word than fun. Miss Pac-Man apparently has a new look because of a lawsuit that happened back in 2020, but we're now just seeing the effects of it in some releases of like arcade archives versions of Pac-Land and stuff. Miss Pac-Man no longer has her signature red bow. She now has sort of a, what is it, like a pink hat? Like a and pink gloves, and so the sort of classic Miss Pac-Man, I guess, is now lost in a lawsuit.
Yeah, they changed her name too to Pac Mom.
She's Pac Mom, which I don't know.
Kind of changes the whole dynamic there, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. She's defined solely by her being a mother now, and you know.
Yeah. Before she was an independent single woman.
Yes.
The same race as Pac-Man.
Yeah, like Miss, not Mrs. Now she's Mrs. Mom. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting situation, I guess, with Bandai Namco and Alt Games on who owns Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah. I mean, this goes way back, right? Like
apparently.
way back to the arcades. Because Miss Pac-Man was not a game that Namco developed themselves. It was kind of like a hack. It was basically a fan mod of Pac-Man that was then sold kind of via dubious means, but so much so to where they kind of owned the character now and Namco does not. So that's why you don't see, there's a big Pac-Man collection coming out soon, and Ms. Pac-Man is not in any of those re-releases. Yeah, it's a real shame because Ms. Pac-Man is better than Pac-Man for sure.
And then we've been kind of following this Activision Blizzard issue surrounding Raven Software, where the QA workers organized to form a union. And now Activision Blizzard had said that all the QA workers are going, previously who were temporary or contract QA workers are going to now be made full-time employees with $20 an hour minimum pay. But the Raven Software QA workers are not part of that deal. In what feels like a sort of union busting attempt. I guess Activision Blizzard is saying that they are already full-time employees, and that this is for a new situation, but they're not guaranteed the same pay and that sort of thing. So it does feel in retaliation, if you will.
Yeah, pretty classic technique there to make an example of some and then incentivize others from unionizing in the future. Yeah. It's a shame to see.
It's fucked up.
Yeah. There you go. It's fucked up. And then our last bit of news here, also interesting and maybe fucked up too. I don't know how you feel about this. We can
call this one fucked up. Yeah.
But Sony and the owners of LEGO, which I guess is a company called Kirkby, they own TLG, the Lego group. They are investing money into Epic Games. And this was also sort of on the heels of news that happened that Epic and Lego are teaming up to build a quote unquote family friendly metaverse whatever that means. And this is also Epic has announced Unreal Engine 5. So this is sort of like a grouping of all this news that's happened within the last week or so. I don't know what all this means. I don't know what Epic's metaverse is, if it's just Fortnite or if there's now going to be it sounds like there's going to be a new Lego Epic game like Roblox, but like an official or something, I would guess. I don't know what all this means. It's a little bit weird and fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big topic, right? I mean, I feel
where do we start?
yeah. I think, like, first of all, I think that it's important to remember that nobody really knows what the metaverse is yet, but everybody's throwing obscene amounts of money at it, right? Sony included, right? Like Epic has. Okay, I don't even know where to start. Okay, I think we should maybe start by saying, so we've been reporting on Epic's expansion for the past like year and a half or 2 years, right? Them just kind of gobbling up all of these different multimedia channels and different production lines, and they're in live action film production now. All the Star Wars
game developer tools,
music platforms, yeah. So I think that they've been clearly kind of gearing towards some big move into whatever this metaverse is going to be, whatever the next internet is that everybody keeps kind of referring to the metaverse as. And I think Sony, wants to be a part of it. They don't want to be left behind, so much so that they're willing to throw $1 billion at Epic for it, right? Now, make no mistake, for my money, whenever I hear metaverse, all I really hear is crypto marketplace. So like metaverse for kids just like sounds really bad to me, right?
I feel like the things are related, but I could arguably see it as being this sort of like, and I think this gets brought up a lot too, this sort of second life, like just sort of a like virtual world where you go in, but it has also gotten all tied up in that. So that makes it nastier. And Matthew, you were about to say something.
Yeah, it all depends on where this metaverse will be, like from a server location. So maybe it is decentralized on the blockchain, delivered to the user, and they can log in, and it's all decentralized. Or maybe it's on an Azure or AWS platform in California or North Carolina, and that's the metaverse. It just all depends the way you think about it, but it could very much be on the blockchain. We don't know at this point. I'm looking at this. This is like, $1 billion from the LEGO group and $1 billion from Sony?
That's right. Yeah. They just kind of overnight got $2 billion from investors trying to hop in on whatever it is they're trying to create right now.
That makes sense. I mean, this is where like what everyone wants. Everyone's competing for the user's time. Music, movies, TV shows, blah, blah, blah. But now like this internet 3.0, you will now go to a place to experience this social network or go to this metaverse, the Lego world, to buy things or to listen to things or to watch things.
A lot of heads shaking.
Everyone's shaking their heads. Roblox is the closest thing that we have today of what the metaverse could look like. And there's a great video that talked a little bit about that I watched this weekend about what is ongoing between Epic and Apple and Epic and Google. And their conversations about how stores regulating stores function across the world and across markets, and how that works. And like Roblox is interesting because a lot of their stuff that they have in the world are user generated, but they changed their user generated games. Like they create these kind of game types in Roblox, but now Roblox refers to them either as like events or experiences. So they're not categorized legally as games. And And so they kind of skirt around some of this regulation based on how Roblox explains this user-generated content. They're not music, they're not movies, they're not games, but they're experiences, which crosses many mediums.
And let's also be clear that I don't know a ton about it, but everything I hear about Roblox is that it's shady as hell. Like it's basically what we were talking about, this idea of preying on kids, right? Like, I mean, making money from kids buying things, and kids are kind of sold on this idea that they can make money through it. But the reality is you have to make a lot of money to actually get paid. And like, it just is shady.
Yeah. I mean, it's under the guise of like I don't know enough about Roblox to immediately call it out as like an all negative thing. Cause I know it's like, it's under the auspices of being a creative playground for kids. Right. And I know a lot of kids have been getting into game design through Roblox and stuff like that. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, but what does scare me is just like this trending towards speculative marketplaces for children just seems like the end of the world. You know what I mean? They don't have the wherewithal to like make decisions like that. You know what I mean? On stuff where the value is constantly increasing and decreasing. It's like, all right, I think it's just like a bad thing to expose your kids to. It's just like gambling, right? I mean, it's like this loot box 5.0, like that's what I hear when I hear this stuff. But I hope to be wrong. And I hope it is just something like Second Life, right? Like, or Neopets or fucking whatever, all the stuff that we grew up when we were kids. But I just think there's such like sinister undertones to all this shit these days. And we're just in this gold rush for gold that we don't even know what it is. We don't know what the element is. We just know there's an element in that mountain and we're all digging and it might just be air. And we're just like, I don't know. It's just, we're all throwing money behind it. It's really strange to see. It's a strange time to be alive.
Billions of dollars at stake in this, whatever this metaverse is. I think what you're talking about, David, just a little bit is like the thing that I think about is if you're building these experiences in Roblox, then you're like, I can make games. These are fun. What is there to learn? I want to learn Unity. I want to learn Unreal. I want to learn Game Maker, all these different tools. But like, let's say we're 5 years into the future and you're playing this Lego metaverse game developed by Epic. And you start to get curious. You're like, I'm already making games in this Lego world using Epic tools. And now you've learned about these tool sets, and you're probably not going to learn new tools because you're already familiar with Unreal. So you, long-term from a business sense, you are locking creators into your tool sets who are develop content for your platforms, like long-term.
Yeah.
But this is like not unusual for like brands of how we're Nintendo people because we played Nintendo as children.
They locked us in.
This is not an unusual thing, but just the same thing that's happened to us as we have this fucking Nintendo podcast, but just happening on Internet 3.0.
Yeah, but ours is cool. Adam, what do you think about all this stuff?
I think even from like a sociological perspective, it's kind of terrifying, because I teach high school, and even just today, I had a conversation with some of my students about how the technology, like some of them, like their real concept of self is digital and not necessarily physical. So it's like way scary for me. I have a 3-year-old who just discovered Roblox videos on YouTube, and and I couldn't hit the block button faster. It's like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing. Go outside and kick a ball, please.
Be careful. Don't you can click the block button, but don't you dare click the blocks button because that's totally different.
And this age too, people who are growing up during COVID too, like where so much stuff is online, and then even before COVID, but especially during and after.
What are some of your like high schoolers like? What do they say about their like digital identity?
Well, a lot of them associate their childhood with Minecraft and getting their first cell phone and starting to like build an online identity as like that's closely tied with their adolescence. And now they're like kind of disassociating with their with their real life identity or having a difficult time making those pieces fit because, when you're a teenager, it's confusing enough without having to also manage your
second identity. Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah. Your online presence. It's, it's complicated enough being 30 something,
Right.
This is an identity podcast now.
Fuck the Chrono series. Let's just talk about this for the rest of the show. But I mean, it's like we grew up. I can't really speak for you guys. I think I'm a little bit younger than you guys, but it's like I grew up. I feel like as the internet was also becoming a thing, right? It was like I grew up at really as I was a teenager, as I was going into adolescence. I feel like the internet was just finally starting to really proliferate, right? So it was like still this thing where it was very much like you sit down at a terminal and log in with your phone line for X number of hours a day or whatever, and you blah, 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 right? And so it's like kids now are growing up where the internet has very much already gone through its adolescence, right? And it's already turned into its own thing. And it's morphing into this Web 3.0 Internet of Things kind of, it's ubiquitous, right? And so I think it's a much scarier time to be a kid, for sure. I could see like a lot of that identity crisis going on in today's youth. And that's got to be crazy to see from a firsthand perspective.
Even what you said, you're like, as a kid, I sat down to log in. But now it's like, you're logged in all the time.
Yeah, now I'm just like, beep, beep.
Yeah.
It is weird having a young kid. We should move on, but just briefly, like I walk over to pick him up at his school and I see lots of these kids come out of elementary school with phones.
Yeah.
And then like a lot of the stuff.
Cigars and hookers. And all this.
Wow. And he comes out with like, paper things he's made that are like, this is a camera and like you're on YouTube and like, it's like, it's weird.
It's like you're making an analog art piece, but it's also for digital.
Yeah. Like a paper mache Twitter feed.
Yeah, it's weird. But that's what everybody that's old says, I guess. I don't know.
I love it.
I don't know.
It's great. I love having.
Hey guys, at the end of the day, we'll all one day perish.
So this is true.
No, we won't. We're gonna just upload ourselves.
Wow, that's my man. Where is he?
Which corner? All right. Well, I think we've talked about a lot of this, and I don't know what I'm saying, but I think we should move on. Is what I'm trying to say. So we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk all about the Chrono series, and in particular, the Chrono Cross remaster. All right, we are back, and this week we are talking all about Chrono series games. In particular, the Chrono Cross remaster just came out on multiple platforms, including the Switch, and it is includes with it I guess what you call another Chrono game, Radical Dreamers, and I'm kind of curious about anybody who might have touched that. And, we'll also kind of talk a little bit about Chrono Trigger and just this series as a whole, of which there are only these maybe if you call that Radical Dreamers a separate game, 3 games. Why aren't there more? Are we going to see remaster of Chrono Trigger? Things like David hinted at, but we'll also kind of go over impressions of the Chrono Cross remaster for those that have played it, of which I will fully admit right now I have not. It was my intention to at least play a little bit of it, but I didn't get around to it. I am excited to try it out though, because I am a huge fan of Chrono Trigger.
Yes.
I don't know if y'all want to start with that.
Well, I think real quickly, we should say, are you insinuating, Patrick, that visual novels are not games?
Not at all.
Radical Dreamers is a visual novel.
It's just like a text game, right?
Yeah.
It was built in 3 months.
I guess I was just asking, like, does that, I don't know, was the way it came out and all of that being part of it, like, but fair. I think it's a game. I just didn't know if it counted as a full entry into this series. I guess it does.
Yeah. I was just giving you some crap. We probably shouldn't start talking about the Chrono series with Radical Dreamers. I say,
all right, let's open with it.
Yeah.
The most notable game in the series, Radical Dreamers.
Yeah. Maybe we can talk just briefly, just because it's just come out. Let's just talk about the new release of Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition. Now, Adam, I don't know if you've had a chance to play this new version of the game. Did you buy it?
Yeah, I am kind of hot and cold on it.
Yeah,
I mean, I love any excuse to go back and play this game that I love so much, and I am super pumped that it's portable.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I play it, some of the like technical hiccups with the game and just the way it's presented are a little bit of a bummer. I don't know if we'll get into some of that a little bit later, but yeah, I wish it were a little bit better.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's hard for me to even get that jazzed. Like I'm jazzed that it's on the Switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can't be that jazzed that it's portable because I owned a Vita and played Chrono Cross for PlayStation 1 on my Vita, right? So I've played it portably before. But that having been said, I think like the good things about it are the quality of life stuff that they have added to it. Like I think having an auto battle is really helpful.
It's great.
You can fast forward like a lot of these other Square quote unquote remasters. Turn off enemy encounters and stuff like that. All of that makes the game a much more enjoyable modern experience, I think, to play. And it is a fantastic game. It's one of my all-time favorite games. So it's, you can't be too upset about it. But man, yeah, you're right. The frame rate is a major issue. Digital Foundry just put out a video and it performs worse than it did on PlayStation 1 in a lot of ways, right? Like the opening of the game, which runs at like a solid 30 on PlayStation 1, is running at like 20 frames per second straight up. And then there'll be times during battles where I feel like the frame rate drops into like single digits, and so and that's not just on Switch, like that's on PS5 as well. So it's a problem with how the game is built, like how this remaster is done.
How do you make a remaster that feels that's crazy to me?
Yeah. I think basically what they landed on at Digital Foundry was that this game is basically being emulated through Unreal Engine, which then has its own kind of layer on top of it that, gives the AI upscaled backgrounds, like injects the AI upscaled backgrounds, the new character models, all the new like additions to it. It's all based on emulation rather than being a full straight port into whatever engine they're using, which I think they speculated was Unreal Engine. I don't know if that's confirmed. But so it's causing issues, right? And so really you just at this point, I mean, it's certainly still playable, I would say, but and it's definitely better in handheld when it's rendering at 720p and not at 1080. But yeah, it's unfortunate, and I really hope they can patch it. But as of now, as of the recording of this, they haven't even mentioned that they're aware of any issues with the game. So we'll see. But at the end of the day, it's $20. I think $20 is a great price for this package, especially if you do include Radical Dreamers with it.
Well, do you want to take this moment to jump back a little bit in time and talk about Chrono Trigger? Sure. So 1995, let me set the stage here. I don't know. Actually, I don't have anything else that I was going to what else happened in 95? I don't know. But one thing that did happen. One thing that did happen is that Chrono Trigger was released. And I think at the time, especially, it really felt like an improvement on a lot of the sort of Square RPG games. It had that sort of, I feel like, it was random encounters, but you could kind of avoid them, which wasn't as common. Probably wasn't the first game to do that, but it was the first one I played that did that. And I think, the whole, just the story and the time element and the shifting around in time and the ability to kind of add characters and then to have them do attacks together. It just felt to me like a lot of new things and a lot of improvements on sort of the Final Fantasy games, and a better story that wasn't just about crystals and stuff, more character driven, and for me at least. And so I think like a lot of people who played a lot of RPGs around that time, it's one of the best ones, and still people talk about it, I've been talking for a long time. So does anybody else have any sort of things they want to add to that?
I mean, Chrono Trigger was one of the first RPGs that I played. And just knowing that there were multiple characters, multiple worlds, and multiple endings, with multiple makeups of the team, I love the reason that I love Xenoblade games today are attributed to a lot of the things that make Chrono Trigger so good. This vast, the story is really deep. There's lots of lore. There's usually a small band of characters that connect over and through time.
Yasunori Mitsuda is involved.
All of that, yeah. It's an incredible game.
I mean, it's genre defining.
Yep.
I would say. I mean, it's Chrono Trigger is always going to be a top 5 game for me. It's my probably favorite game of all time, and I love it to death. I think it's incredible, and I love the sense of agency in that game.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that there are choices that seem really meaningful, and it balances that really nicely with interesting characters. Like the stakes are universal. It's like, are we going to save the entire world? Hopefully. Are we also going to have like really good kind of intimate character stories? Also, yes. And it hits both of those things. I mean, it's a masterful game for sure.
Mm-hmm. Also introduces like Magus as a character is has like an interesting story. He starts off as a villain, and then you learn more about who he is and where he came from. And it has these rich characters that sometimes RPGs have like these vanilla villains that want to do evil because they are evil people. But there's the character driven of like a character like Magus, which looks like he's evil to be evil towards humans. But there's so much more to his character.
Who it is theorized is actually in Chrono Cross as well as the character Guile. There's lots of undertones that they might be the same character in that game. That's jumping ahead a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I think that to this day, I think genre defining is the right word for it, Adam. I think there's an argument to be made that Chrono Trigger is still like it's like the archetypal RPG at this point, right? And just like really hits all the boxes and does it really, really well. Which is part of the reason why Chrono Cross got such a bad rap. It's like we were talking before the show about how good of a band Wings is, but like Wings will always be compared to the Beatles.
That's good.
Yeah, it's like hard to really say that it could be as good when you had just like Masterpiece beforehand. So, but yeah, Chrono Trigger is an amazing game. It's a game that I've played a bunch of times, but I've never actually beaten. So I'm looking forward to actually going back and completing it at some point. I know recently I purchased the Steam version, which I'm kind of waiting to play right now until I get a Steam Deck, because I think that'll be a great portable game. But I also do have the game on DS. And I've just like bought Chrono Trigger in many different ways over the years. I had it on PlayStation and all these different ways. And it's one of those games I've started a bunch of times. I'm historically bad at completing games, especially JRPGs. But yeah, I definitely want to play it. And I've kind of been hoping that they would be releasing this game in some form on the Switch. And I think it's kind of crazy that they haven't, right? And I think a lot of people were kind of flabbergasted that Chrono Cross got released before Chrono Trigger on the Switch. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think it's on mobile and not in Steam?
I was just going to speculate. Do you think it's a case of like, let's sell this game first because we know it's going to sell better? Or we know the other game's going to sell regardless and sell better than this one. And if we did it the other way around, we might lose out on people trying Chrono Cross.
Yeah, I mean, very, very much a possibility. Yeah,
I think that has to be part of it. Like, why would you buy Chrono Cross, which, as much as we might like that game, is not on the same echelon as a Chrono Trigger. If that's out and you can easily get that, then I don't know. I can also see doing it the other way around, where they would release Chrono Trigger, people would get way into it, and then be like, here's the hit sequel.
Yeah.
The universally beloved sequel. Well, look, I personally am a bigger Chrono Cross fan than I am a Chrono Trigger fan, right? I think like something about the story has always hooked me a lot more. It's got kind of this like real melancholy story to it, right? And it's a lot more personal of a tale, which is something that I enjoy about it. But I know I'm also in the minority there, right? I think like I think not enough people gave Cross a chance because it wasn't Chrono Trigger. I'm getting flashbacks of like Wind Waker or something like that, right? Like when it wasn't the game that they wanted it to be, and so they didn't give it a try without realizing its genius, right?
Yeah, I think most people at the time of Chrono Cross's initial release, they wanted like the direct sequel. And there are connections between them, but they are very like small. There are very big lore implications, but the connections are only there if you like care about the story and like are really dived into some of the characters. So a spoiler warning, if you've ever played Chrono Trigger, is Chrono Trigger splits in multiple timelines. Chrono dies. Magus gets sent through multiple timelines. But at the end of Trigger, the canon story, there's a cutscene later in the PS1 version where Luca finds a child, and that child is a clone of Shala. And Shala has like the pendant. And this creates a new timeline that sets up some later events for Cross, but also that's what's happening in that 1000 AD. But if you cut back to like 65 million BC, thank you for staying with me so far. This is deep lore territory.
Oh, as somebody who hasn't beaten the game, I muted you long ago.
Okay. For Cross exists in this Trigger timeline where in Trigger, Lavos lands on Earth and destroys the Reptide kingdom, the Reptide boss. And in 65 million BC, it was humans versus reptides. And reptides were the far superior race at the time, and they would have beat humans. But because of Lavos landed and killed the Reptide base and most of that the people at that time, humans excelled. But Cross exists in this separate timeline where Lavos didn't destroy the Lavos land, and it didn't destroy the kind of Reptide base in 65 million BC, which creates this timeline where Reptides in Cross in one of these timelines are like the superior, the smarter people. So you have all these dragons and these dragonites, which give elements, but they're not magic like is from Trigger. If I've lost you, thank you for joining with me.
That was epic, dude. That was pretty epic.
But if you think about these games like a Xenogears or a Xenoblade and how they kind of have multiple branching timelines, it's similar of how Wild, like Zelda, connects, and similar of how like Xenoblade games connect with some of like a branching world and split timelines and split decisions. This is where Cross comes into play. But because it's so like rich in its lore and deep in its lore, if you're the average person like I was as a teenager, I'm like, I don't care. Where's Chrono? He's not in this game. It's in the title. It's this
but
Chrono.
it's like even. But I never really got all the hate for it because it's like, fucking Final Fantasy games aren't connected by anything other than being somebody named Sid, So it's like, it's like, and nobody gave a shit about that, right? And so it's like, and this connects more than those games do, and so it never really kind of made sense to me why people were so upset about it. But
I'm guessing it's because of what I just said, that I think the story in Chrono Trigger is better than the story in any Final Fantasy, and so when you're like, we wipe the slate clean and we start another story about having to save the world with crystals. Oh, well. But this time when you wipe the slate clean, people were like, where's Frog?
Yeah.
Well, he's a human.
There are some frog types in Chrono Cross. Yeah. There are implications.
I mean, how many times have the Final Fantasy games with their direct sequels have been as beloved as the main line? I mean, 10-2's good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 13-2,
but not as beloved.
No. So I get it. It probably would have been better if it had a different name. It probably would have been more well regarded if it had no name connection to Chrono Trigger.
Or they just changed it to like Bono Trigger.
Okay. Wings.
Yeah.
Before we get into anything more about the remaster, do you think we could talk about Radical Dreamers? Have either of y'all touched it on this remaster, or is anybody here at all familiar with it?
So I've started it just to see what it's like. And I actually want to sometime soon just stream the whole game. Because I think it's like
when you're doing that,
yeah, I think it's like an hour and a half long, something like that. But I also kind of like want to play through Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross before doing it, because it's like it. I know that it adds even more connective tissue between the two games, right? There's a little bit of backstory. Radical Dreamers was a Satellaview game, which was for the Super Famicom in Japan. They had this kind of download service where certain times of days it would use, satellites, obviously, to beam down games to users. And oftentimes these games would just be around for a very limited amount of time. And so because of that, there were shorter experiences, or they included like full voice lines and voiceover on the Satellaview and stuff like that. Now, this game was just a text adventure, right? But it did star Surge and Kid, who are the main characters from Chrono Cross. And this is back on, this is like, I think 3 years before Chrono Cross eventually came out on the PlayStation 1. This was like a very late era Super Nintendo, or excuse me, Super Famicom Satellaview game. So it's like, it was basically them kind of coming up with a story. Viper Manor is involved in the story as well. They're like going to steal stuff from Viper Manor, which is one of the first kind of main segments of Chrono Cross. So Chrono Cross definitely got its inspiration. It was kind of like an extended, it was like basically took the story of Radical Dreamers as its base and then expanded it out into its own full like 30-40 hour game. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think, especially if you're a big fan of Chrono Trigger and you're a deep lore head, like we all are now, that Matt just gave us that lesson in the Chrono timeline. But it's something that's going to really reward players who were really invested in the story of Chrono Trigger.
Fair enough. Adam, have you played it at all?
I have briefly touched it as well, and I had played through a bit of it back when the fan translation came out back in the emulation days.
See, we can say emulation on
okay,
this podcast.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm familiar with it. It's an interesting curiosity, and I'm really like kind of surprised and glad that it exists in a legitimate form now.
Yeah,
that's
good.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like, it's kind of the unsung hero of this collection, right? It's like one of the things that you can't really get anywhere else. I mean, obviously, yes, there's a fan translation, but this is like an official localization of this game, which is like really, really awesome.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like that would have, in my mind, I don't think that that would affect sales too much, right? Like it might increase it a little bit to know, like, oh, there's this unique thing. I really love this series and I've never played it, but I don't think people. I don't know. I think they could have gotten away without adding it, is basically what I'm saying.
I agree.
Sure.
So it's a cool thing that they did it.
But yeah, I think while you're right, I think it's what makes it's what makes it more valuable to play this version of the game rather than like emulate a 60 frames per second upscaled fan version of Chrono Cross, which is also tempting. Right.
I mean, that makes it all the more curious for why the core game wasn't treated with a little more respect, because clearly they're preserving something that people really care about.
Yeah. And I mean, let's move into Cross, right?
Time,
because I think like, Yasunori Matsuda, legendary composer for both Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, came back to do like 8 new songs, right? A lot of them are just rearrangements of songs that already existed, but you listen to them and they feel like brand new songs. They're recorded with full orchestras. They've got, he's got like a Celtic singer that he brought on who does beautiful renditions of some of these tracks. And fortunately, I will say in the game, none of those tracks like replace any of the tracks that were already in the game, because the soundtrack was already like perfect, right? I think if anything, the real legacy of Chrono Cross has always been its soundtrack. I think that it's hard to argue that Chrono Cross does not have one of the best video game soundtracks, if not the best video game soundtrack of all time. It's certainly my favorite. It's kind of this beautiful blend of like Mediterranean and Celtic sounds with more traditional Japanese compositions. It's like this beautiful blend. But they brought him back, the main character designer, who I'm forgetting the name of right now, who did all the character portraits for the first game, came back to do completely new character portraits for all the characters in this game. All the models were they put so much work into making it really a love letter to the fans of this game, but then it kind of just like performs like ass. So it's kind of a massive oversight, right? But yeah, maybe we could talk more about the game itself and what makes it so good.
Before we do that, how do you feel about some of the new assets? How do you like the character portraits and the models and the backgrounds in particular? To be
the backgrounds are controversial, right? Because they've clearly done some AI upscaling on it, which is to so effects, right? The game used a lot of like dithering, like a lot of PlayStation 1 games did back in the day for its backgrounds. And that's kind of a CRT technique, right? Like when all that shit's smeared, it just looks photorealistic almost on a CRT, right? But then when you use AI upscaling on that, the AI gets confused as to like what these dots are, right? And so it adds in all these kind of strange lines. And at the end of the day, it gives it sort of a painterly look that is almost accidental. But I think that it kind of works for me. And like I said, especially in handheld mode, I think that the AI upscaled backgrounds actually look really nice. And I'd much prefer to play them like that than just super pixelated, right? Do I wish that they could have gone back and gotten some of these original paintings and rescanned them? Of course. But I just don't think that Square Enix is in the business of doing that kind of work, right? They'd much rather just recreate everything in like a Final Fantasy VII remake sort of situation. But as far as the character models are concerned, I think the new models look great. I think the new character portraits look amazing. They're really faithful to the original portraits. If I didn't know that they'd been redone, I might not have even realized that they had been redone. It's really faithful in a lot of ways. Yeah, I'm happy with all the upgrades for the most part.
Yeah, I like them too. I think they look great, and I feel exactly the same way. The upscaling makes them look kind of painterly, almost by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question for y'all. I've never played Chrono Cross, and if there are people like me out there who are listening to this who maybe liked Chrono Trigger but just never got around to playing Chrono Cross, what are some of the differences? What are some of the same things, either in both games and or with this remaster? You kind of mentioned some of the quality of life stuff, but like, is it extremely similar in terms of how it plays?
Not really. Yeah, it's got a pretty different vibe, right? I mean, it has a lot more in common with like Final Fantasy 7 and 8 than it does with Chrono Trigger. But that having been said, it does share a lot of similarities as well. You see enemies on the screen. So if you don't, it's not like a Final Fantasy game or like a Pokemon game where you just have random battles, depending on how many steps you walk, right? You can avoid battles if you want. Also, there is no leveling up system, like a traditional level up system in this game. So grinding is kind of irrelevant in this game. You can grind and you can do battles just within an area, but you're granted individual stat increases rather than experience points. So you can raise your HP by a point, or you can get a little bit more magic defense or a little bit more strength or attack or whatever, right? But then that's all kind of moot, really, because the real upgrades that you get are when you beat bosses. You get like massive drops of stat upgrades, right? And it's kind of this star system. And so it kind of plays differently than traditional RPGs in that way. But it does have a lot of similarities, right? There are a lot of characters that you can recruit. In fact, there are 45 characters that you can recruit.
Really that many?
Into your party. Yeah. Which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing about this game. It means that there are a lot of little side stories, but it means some of them are just completely inconsequential. You know what I mean? And a lot of the characters just don't even have any like unique dialogue. They just have unique accents that say the same dialogue as everybody else, right?
So like you're saying that like maybe if I picked this or this character, it'd be the same story, but just a little bit different of a character or something.
In some ways, yeah. And in fact, there are so many characters that you can't get all of them in one playthrough. Which is another kind of similar to Chrono Trigger, right? Where there are decisions that you make that in the moment feel like nothing, but by the end of the game, you realize like, oh, I branched off the path that I'm going down like in the first like couple hours of this game because of a decision that I made, right? And that's really similar to Chrono Trigger in a lot of ways.
I mean, the battle system is very different. Like the way the actual battles play out, it's not necessarily, having magic points and all of that. You have to build up an element meter before you can use your special skills. And I don't think I've seen that in any other game either before or after. It's really unique.
It's awesome. I like it a lot. You get to use each element that you have equipped for each character once per fight. So it's like when next time you do a battle again, you then have that available to you. So it really just kind of increases strategizing for battles in a really fun way that feels very fulfilling by the end of the game.
Like the battle systems, there are some attacks that borrow from Trigger. Some like magic attacks are like the same. They're like called the same. So similar to like a Bahamut or something from Final Fantasy. You kind of see the attacks are named something and you expect them. I think like Luminaire is one example that comes to mind, one of Chrono's attacks. But they also have like double and triple techs that was so fun in Chrono Trigger. So because there's so many characters, not every character has a double or a triple tech. But only certain characters have these makeups where you can combine some of your technical attacks together, like Trigger.
Yeah, and I think really it's just, I mean, for me, what I've just always loved about the game is like the vibe and the story. I think it's like a really excellent story that's like really kind of like existential, right? Like kind of the very basis of the story is you're this boy named Serge who has lived his entire life in this fishing village, right? And so when the game starts, you wake up from this crazy dream that you're having, that you're kind of like, it's kind of like in media res, right? You're like seeing kind of what's going to happen in the future of the game, but he's dreaming it at the moment. And so you go on some like kind of asinine fetch quest or whatever. And then you go to this beach. And when you're at this beach, this kind of portal opens up, right? That takes you like basically knock out. And when you wake up, you're still on the beach, but you realize that everything's like slightly different. And so you go back to your hometown only to realize that you are in a version of your universe where the character that you're playing as died as a child, like drowned in the ocean, right? So you're going back and you're like, hey, it's me, it's Serge. And they're like, no, Serge died as a kid. What the fuck is your problem, right? And so you start to see like how like one little change earlier on in the timeline massively affects the events of the rest of the world. And then, of course, you get to a point where you can kind of freely jump back and forth between, I think it's called the home world and another world is what they refer to it as in the game. And so that's kind of where the story takes off, right? And then kind of seeing how these characters interact differently in their perspective parallel universes is kind of part of the fun of the story. And it becomes, it's very melancholy. It's very like introspective. It's a great game to play as an adult. It's like every time I play it, I get more out of it than I did when I played it last.
Nice. Well, maybe as we sort of head to wrapping up this discussion, do y'all want to talk about the reality of no Chrono Trigger? Do you think that means they're gonna remake or remaster that game too? That wasn't part of any leak, that NVIDIA leak or anything, was it? No.
Just the Chrono Cross remaster was on there, but not this. I think Live Alive was as well, right? So it's we've oft speculated that the next HD 2D game might be a Chrono Trigger remake, but if it was, it was not in that NVIDIA leak, which you think it might have been if Live Alive was in there.
Before I speculate too much about what I really want from the Square Enix and the Chrono Trigger series, allow me to talk a little bit more lore, just so maybe to entice y'all if you've ever played Trigger, why it's interesting to play Cross. And I'm frustrated by it because there are connected tissues between the two storylines. But like the idea of like the kingdom of Zeal was harvesting the power of Lavos in order to build this kingdom. But Lavos was taking advantage of the humankind. And a lot of that connection between this evil entity, this alien that's sucking the life force of planet Earth, kind of plays into the role of Cross too. This melancholy feeling that David is talking about is in connection to this idea that this is a separate timeline where things are a little bit different, and some of the lore plays out differently, and and there are moments where you see different timelines kind of talk to each other, and it's like wildly fascinating. But similar to like Xenoblade, you have to like really like read the words and pay attention to the lore that's happening with the subtext, because it's not so obvious, the connections.
Do you think that the like thematic nature of Chrono Cross like ties to that idea that, you know, in order for Zeal to become this sort of world power, they have to like ally themselves with this nature sucking, world destroying entity, while the hero of the game comes from this, you know, backwoods fishing village, lives close to the land. There's like a beauty in the simplicity of the lives of these characters. And the real danger is like, what happens when you try to, you know, harness some power and you know, step
outside your bounds a little bit. Right?
Yeah. I mean, just to like zoom out a little bit, it's like Trigger talks. There's there's a few different dialogues where Luca and Chrono and Marl talk about this entity. So they talk about this entity multiple times. It's like near the end of the game, they talk about like, it feels like the entity is satisfied, but like this entity could be anything. It could be the player breaking the fourth wall. This could be like a Final Fantasy VII, like the
Gaia
Earth
sort of thing.
This Earth, where the Earth is actually, this entity is leading Surge or leading Chrono to defend itself against Lavos from destroying its inhabitants. Similar to like Xenoblade, they're like this organic creature is actually well in tune with the creatures living on it and inside of it, where that's kind of controlling it. And to your point, maybe this is the overall narrative, like even if you are from the small fishing village, you can still time travel and change the fucking world.
Yeah. Sometimes it's your responsibility, even. Yeah.
And it's such a personal game, because like the version of Chrono Trigger that any of you experience is probably going to be a little bit different than the one that I did. And Chrono Cross even more so, because it branches so drastically, so often, that like that entity, if it's us, like we are in the game, and the like participatory nature of it is so profound, because it's like we control the fates of these characters and the world that they live in. Like our choices have weight to them. It's like that's significant weight. And that's such a beautiful thing. Like that's an experience that we can only get from a video game.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, this is definitely, if you haven't played, I mean, I feel like most people at this point have played Chrono Trigger, right? Or at least like get what it's about. It's a universally acclaimed game. If you're like a fan of like Final Fantasy 7, 8, or 9, or a fan of Chrono Trigger, you are doing yourself a disservice by never having played Chrono Cross. Like it is in the upper echelon of like the glory days of Squaresoft, right? Like they were at their stride. They had the best writing team. It's like all the same people from Chrono Trigger working in Chrono Cross. Like it's really a fantastic game. And it just got slept on a bunch. I mean, it sold a lot, right? I mean, it was like, it had the green side on the PlayStation, as player's choice or whatever they fucking called it, right? But it's like, but it's never in the same conversation, right? And I do think that it's a criminally slept on game, and I am very happy now that it is widely accessible, regardless of platform, and that anybody can play it right now. And I really hope that just every game is like that going forward. I just want access to like all these classic games that like are under the radar, or that maybe never got their fair shake. And I definitely think that it's one worth checking out. I implore you to do so if you haven't yet.
And maybe in the future, like PC modders will clean up some of the issues with this game, and we'll have the definitive version of Chrono Cross at our fingertips on our Steam decks. We'll get jacked in.
Hopefully Square does that themselves.
You would hope so. I mean, they did it. They did it with Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, they did. That port was terrible at first, and then they did fix it over time, and now it's kind of the definitive way to play. Yeah.
But this isn't Chrono Trigger, it's Chrono Cross.
Yeah, exactly. Do they give a fuck?
Who knows?
We'll have to see.
What does the future
They
hold?
seem to. The Chrono Twitter page it seems super into it.
All they want's the Portuguese translation. They're just asking for it.
Yeah.
They're all about it.
Yeah. That's true.
Well, we should wrap this up. I don't know. One little factoid that's interesting to mention is back in around 2000, they Square trademarked Chrono Break, and there was some discussion about maybe them making another game, but there's never been a third or fourth, rather, I guess, with Radical Dreamers game in this series, and that seems like a missed opportunity, maybe. So maybe what do you think is going to happen? Is there any more future to this, or are they remaking these and that's going to be it?
I don't know. I mean, I remember hearing from one of the developers, or I think it might have even been the director of the game, who was basically saying it's like Chrono Break was trademarked, but he was never even really a part of the project. It was something that they had been working on without him potentially. So maybe it's for the best that that game was never created, if it wasn't the original team, if they were planning on moving ahead without them. But I mean, I think we've gotten more Chrono series shit in the past year than we have in the past 2 decades, right? I mean, this is the first time this game has been re-released outside of PlayStation 1 Classics on the PSN store, right? So that's huge. It was a part of Another Eden, which is another game by the same developers. They had that crossover. They've just updated Chrono Trigger for Steam for like the first time in 2 years. They added like super widescreen support, and they fixed a lot of font issues and stuff like that in the PC port of Chrono Trigger. So it's like there seems to be a lot of movement around the series right now. And I do think that it is a series that they could just not do a new game in for like 2 decades and then just say that they're doing one, and people would pick it right back up like like it had come out in 2003 or something like that, right? So I definitely don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for there to be another game in the Chrono series, but I don't know if you guys agree with that.
I kind of doubt it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, are we ever going to see another Back to the Future movie?
Probably not. God, I literally had that same thought. I was just waiting for someone to say it too.
Yeah, we do live in an era now where, everything old is new again, and companies are mining these things, but sometimes it's just the remakes and the remasters.
Yeah, so they'll make a Back to the Future movie where he goes back to 1985.
That's actually
to like the release of the movie Back to the Future, but it's like some kid,
kind of like Matrix 4.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like meta, like Matrix 4. Yeah.
Anyway, we should wrap this up.
We're a Back to the Future podcast now.
Yeah. I would love any Chrono game. I don't give a shit what it is. It could be a mobile game. It could be a kart racer. It could be a Picross Chrono Break.
What if they did the Spider-Man No Way Home
that would make so much sense in those
the characters exactly. The characters from Chrono Trigger and the characters from Chrono Cross go on an adventure together.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be great.
Yeah, right?
As long as it's not developed by Tokyo RPG Factory.
Right.
Offense, but it's not that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'd love to see anything. I'd love to just see them remake Chrono Trigger as well, or re-release it in some nature on the Switch.
When I was I played this game multiple times in high school, and there were several mods for like Quake 3 or for Unreal, of like they were recreating epic Chrono Trigger battles, like the battle of the like on the bridge.
On the bridge, yeah.
Or Guardia or against Magus. So they had all of these technical demos of recreations of these games, and I remember being really hyped. I was like, "Yeah, I can't wait to experience these memories in a new 3D world." But they all got cease and desist one after another, over and over again, with no new game into the series or entry.
What was the 2D Chrono Trigger fan game that got C&D'd? That one's still hard.
Flames of Eternity.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there were a couple that were like almost complete, like feature complete games, and they got killed at the last second.
Yeah, Flames of Eternity still kind of exists. That guy, I mean, he posted in December of last year, so
yeah,
it's. I mean, there's a little bit of content out there if you're really hurting for some more Chrono.
That timeline is where Chrono never wakes up.
Yeah. At the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
He just like had a stroke before the game started.
Wow, I wasn't gonna go that far. But yeah, let's do it. Let's see. He had a fucking stroke.
Yeah, you bring time travel into the equation. Who knows what can go wrong with the human brain?
It's
all right,
somewhere.
y'all. We should move on.
In the Chrono universe, it truly is May somewhere. Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you if you have any thoughts on this Chrono Cross remaster or the Chrono series in general. Please do reach out. And we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the other games that we've been playing recently. All right. I honestly have been just so focused on making this Game Jam game. That's the only game I've been playing other than a little bit of Smash. That's really it. So yeah, one more call to action. Check it out. Monochrome Heights, pdyx.itch.io. I'd love to hear feedback.
That's right. Yeah, go check it out, guys.
I'm real good at it. Tell me that you're not, because that's what everybody who plays it says. They're like, this is hard. And I'm like, I can beat it in 5 minutes.
We should have a speed run race, Patrick. I'm gonna try to get like really good at your game and beat the dev at his own game.
Do it.
Yeah. I'll go next, I guess. That was the briefest games we've been playing yet from Patrick.
Yeah.
I'll go next. I have been playing a decent amount of games. I did roll credits on Kirby since like pretty much after we recorded the last episode. I rolled credits and I'm in the post game now. I think I have like 3 more of those sections left that kind of like combine all the levels from each of the worlds into one level. I'm really enjoying that, by the way. I streamed some of that the other day. In fact, I did want to stream Metal Gear Solid HD Collection. I'm playing Snake Eater, but I wasn't able to this past Wednesday because the Xbox that I'm borrowing from my friend Jeremy. Jeremy, if you're listening to this right now, this is news to you. The power supply, I think, has crapped out on the Xbox, which fortunately is not inside the Xbox One. It's part of the power cable, right? But it's like usually that has a really loud fan, the power supply on the Xbox One, and it just isn't spinning at all. So I imagine the system's just not getting power right now properly. And so I've ordered another power supply that should be coming in tomorrow. So hopefully this Wednesday I'll be playing more Metal Gear Solid, the HD Collection. Although I've decided if I can't get this to work by Wednesday, I'm just going to stream Radical Dreamers. So, but I did play some of Kirby, and I had a really great time. I'll probably be finishing that up pretty soon. Obviously, been playing a ton of Chrono Cross. Every time I start playing this game, I just get sucked in and play like 6 or 7 hours of it. And that's about where I'm at right now on this re-release of Chrono Cross. Randomly been playing some Donkey Kong Country 3. I watched like a YouTube essay about why Donkey Kong Country 3 is actually awesome, because I like to watch videos that circle jerk my own opinions. And that just made me really want to play it. So I've like jumped back into Donkey Kong Country 3 and I love that game. I'm playing some of that. I did beat Picross 7 just before we started recording. I beat Picross 7 and all the clip Picrosses. So that's nice. And then lastly, I want to give a little shout out to DCD. I did download MLB The Show 22 because he was talking in the Discord about potentially playing some baseball now that baseball season has started. Multiplayer, and that's a game I have it on. It's on Game Pass, but that's a game where you can play cross-platform between PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch and PC. So we might do a little bit of that. I was having a little bit of fun playing MLB The Show, and so we might do like a.
Did you play it on Xbox?
Baseball night. Yeah, I played it on my Xbox Series S. Yes. Not this Xbox One VCR that I'm borrowing from Jeremy.
Can I? Is there a mode where I can sit in the crowd and heckle, just yell at the baseball player?
I doubt it. I haven't delved that much into the game, but I doubt it, unfortunately. But you can just be in our Discord call when we play.
Oh, okay, that's the same.
Yeah. It's basically the same in a digital space that we all inhabit. What's the difference? What about you, Matt? What have you been playing this week?
I've been playing a lot of Halo, as I always do, and then finished the last cup in Kirby and the Forgotten Land. What is it? Not the Z Cup, but the Ultimate Z Cup. That was fun. That was harder than I expected. I really enjoyed the final power up that you unlock. Made that last cup in Waddle Dee Town super fun, super challenging.
Oh, is that at the Coliseum?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Ultimate Z Cup, I think is what it's called.
Gotcha.
That's super fun, and it was way harder than I expected. But
yeah, when the boss battles get really difficult, that's when they get really fun, right? Mm-hmm. Like when it like goes full Elden Ring and you're fighting DDD with the big fucking thing that he's swinging around, mm-hmm. like that's when that game gets really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And in that post world, it is a little challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. David, last week you said that you can like dodge. There's a dodge mechanic and it slows down. And that is absolutely crucial in the Ultimate Z Cup.
Yeah, I was surprised that you guys didn't know that when I brought that up. It's like
I've used it since. Yeah.
I use it constantly. Yeah.
I didn't need to because the game was just like it was so easy. You just like spam a power
up till that point.
Again.
Yeah.
Adam, how about you? What have you been playing?
A handful of different things. So obviously dipping into Chrono Cross and having all the nostalgia for that.
Yeah.
But I've been playing Triangle Strategy. Shout out to the JRPG channel on the Discord because that's all they talk about over there. Meanwhile, I just recently finished Mother 3. And that game, let me just say, like if you like JRPGs, if Chrono Cross or Trigger are your kind of game, you have to play Mother 3. There's no like official release. I wish they would, but hits a lot of the same kind of melancholy. It balances the melancholy and the like familial whimsy in a way that just is so sad. It's so good. Guys, you have to play this game.
Yeah. It's been on my list forever.
Did you play it on emulation?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
no, you didn't play the release that they just put out on the Switch yesterday? Come on.
No, I've got my handhelds here in the background that you can see.
Yeah. Is that a Retroid Pocket you got over there?
Yeah. Yep.
Anything else you've been playing?
My daughter has just started getting into Animal Crossing, so she is running around on my island and messing everything up and stealing the money out of my money tree. That's been fun.
Big Patrick knows all about that.
Yeah.
But
good. Now you probably don't care as much. You're probably
she can have at it. It's fun. It's fun to watch a kid like explore a totally novel space that they have never seen before. It's interesting.
Well, let's wait until Nintendo makes their own NFT verse for our animal buddies to live in.
All right, on that scary note, yeah.
Thanks for the existential terror.
Dude, I've been playing so much Chrono Cross recently, I can't help it.
Well, I think that does it then. Thanks, Adam, so much for coming on and talking with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been a blast.
Thanks to MilkyWay.co, does our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. If you're looking for me online, I am PDYX.
And Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Adam? Where can people find you online?
I do a little bit of YouTube, a little bit of blogging, but everything is on my Twitter at Adam McDorman with no spaces.
Very good. Very good. I love seeing you pop up in the Twitch chat from time to time, Adam. It's always a delight to see you around there. And you've been doing some streaming as well every once in a while, right?
Every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Well, if you'd like to find our show on social media, ladies and gentlemen, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We have a website, switchheadz.com. And you can join our Discord, which we've just dropped multiple times in today's episode. It's a great place to hang out, especially if you're a fan of this show. But if you're a fan of anything gaming or Nintendo related, please join us at the Discord. Also join our Facebook group, which we will have links to in the description of this video, be it on YouTube, Spotify, or Amazon, which we're on now, right? Are we? We're on Amazon podcasts now, right?
Yeah, you can't stop us.
Daddy Bezos taking a cut of our profits. What are you going to do? But shout out to, was that Steve Irwin who requested that? I think so, right? So you can listen to us on your Alexa now. So sorry if I just woke up your Alexa by saying that, but you can listen to us on there. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's episode. What a great time. I'm so glad we finally got to talk about Chrono Cross. One of my favorite games of all time. I can't wait to play through this game again, go back and play Trigger, and then play Radical Dreamers. I'm just going to do all of it. And then I'll just, you know what, maybe I'll write a fan fiction of the Chrono No Way Home verse that I've got in my head. We'll see what that'll be the season. What are we on? 3 finale?
I'll help you with lore and timelines. I got you.
Yeah. Actually, Matt, you should write those. Yeah. All right, well, that's going to do it for our episode. Make sure you tune in next week. We're going to have an all-new great episode for you guys. Still a great month of game releases coming out. Other than that, everybody, stay safe out there. Love yourselves. Don't forget to love yourselves. Don't forget to love each other. Show others the same kindness that you would show to yourself on the worst day of your life. I don't know what that means, but we're going to be back next week. We love you very much. We'll see you. Bye-bye.